Lesson 1, Building Regulations, TGD or Technical Guidance Documents. There's a worksheet to accompany this lesson, and you can either fill it out while you're viewing the lesson by simply pausing the video when a question comes up, or you can fill the worksheet out after viewing the lesson. Learning outcomes. By the end of this lesson you should be able to 1. State the function of the technical guidance documents. 2. List and name all 12 technical guidance documents. 3. Give a brief description of the scope of each part of the technical guidance documents from A to M. Technical guidance documents, commonly known as the TGDs, give guidance on how to construct a building so that it complies with the building regulations. It is the job of the Building Control Authority to ensure the buildings comply with the regulations. Building regulations do not apply to buildings constructed prior to the 1st of June 1992, as the building regs in Ireland as we know today were only introduced at the beginning of the 1990s, and any buildings that were constructed prior to that, if anything, they were built to the British standards. So you can access all these technical guidance documents on www.environ.ie/en/TGD. Worksheet question 1. State the function of the technical guidance documents. So as we can see here, there are approximately 12 different technical guidance documents. Part A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L and M. There is no part I, as they didn't want I and L to people to get confused with part I and L, so they left out part I. Part A is structure. Part B, fire safety. Part C, site preparation and resistance to moisture. Part D, materials and workmanship. Part E, sound. Part F, ventilation. Part G, hygiene. Part H, drainage and wastewater disposal. Part J, heat producing appliances. Part K, stairways, ladders, ramps and guards. Part L, conservation of fuel and energy in dwellings. And part L, second part of part L, conservation of fuel and energy in buildings other than dwellings also. Part M, access and use, formerly known as access for people with disabilities. Okay, worksheet question 2. List and name all 12 technical guidance documents. Part A, structure. There's 2 sections to Part A. Section 1 covers loading and ground movement, and we have topics like loading onto foundations and buildings, properties of materials, design analysis, details of construction, safety factors and workmanship are covered in Section 1. In Section 2 we have a disproportionate collapse, and this includes structural details for multi-storey buildings, so it's just really about buildings falling down. Section 1 then has a number of subsections. Section 1, subsection 1 includes sizes for certain structural elements for houses and other small buildings. This includes basic requirements for stability, sizes of certain timber floors, ceilings and roof members in houses, thickness of walls in houses with not more than 2 floors including the ground floor, proportions for masonry chimneys above roof surface and strip foundations of plain concrete. Subsection 2 and subsection 3 subsection 2 covers design and construction of all building types, code standards and references, and subsection 3 includes recovering of existing roof structures and structural safety of external wall cladding. Worksheet question 3. Give a brief description of the scope of part A of the technical guidance documents, which is on structure. Part B is outlined a little bit different than all the other sections because all the different sections of the technical guidance documents they were written by different people and at different times. So Part B, instead of being outlined in numbered sections, it's outlined in as B1, B2, B3, B4 and B5. So B1 covers means of escape in case of fire. B2, internal fire spread on linings, internal linings. B3, internal fire spread on the structure of the building. B4, external fire spread. B5, access and facilities for the fire service. There is a performance statement at the beginning of each of these sections which indicates how the requirement may be met. So these are just requirements, and then they have a performance statement at the beginning of each section that indicates how the requirements might be met. So B1, means of escape in case of a fire. This would include things like means of escape provisions for different purpose groups and building types. When they're talking about different purpose groups, they mean like public in large public buildings, maybe kids in schools, also people in hospitals, that kind of thing. Designed for horizontal escape. Obviously that's out through safety doors, and then we have design for vertical escape, so we're talking about stairwells and external fire escapes. General provisions for means of escape, that includes lights for safety lights, and dwelling houses. B2, internal fire spread on linings. This would include things like general provisions, classifications of standards, European norm, British standards, Irish standards, variations and special provisions for walls, fire protecting suspended ceilings, fire resisting ceilings, and special applications also. And also thermoplastic materials. This would be for windows, roof lights, lighting diffusers. Make sure that they, certain types of thermoplastics from melting. B3, internal fire spread on the structure of the building. This would include load-bearing elements of the structure, compartmentation or separation, which is required in buildings to make sure that fire doesn't spread from one section of the building to another. Concealed spaces, cavities, that's included in cavity walls, protection of openings and fire stopping, and special provisions also for car parks and shopping centres. B4, external fire spread. This includes construction of external walls, space separation through boundaries between one building and another, and roof coverings. And B5, access and facilities for fire services. This would include fire mains, vehicle access, personal access, and areas requiring special consideration, for example boiler rooms, fuel storage, high voltage discharge lighting also. Okay, worksheet question 3. Give a brief description of the scope of Part B of the technical guidance documents, which covers fire safety. Part C is site preparation and resistance to moisture. Again, there's a number of sections in Part C. Section 1 covers site preparation and site drainage, including organic material and site drainage. Section 2 is dangerous substances. This will include investigation of the site, remedial measures, radon gas, landfill gases, and the RPII radon prediction maps. These are radiological prediction from the Radiological Protection Institute in Ireland. Section 3, resistance to weather and ground moisture. Section 3 has a subsection, and subsection 1 of section 3 includes floors next to the ground. This would be ground supported floors, suspended timber ground floors, and suspended concrete ground floors, ones that might be in contact or close to the ground, where we'd have a lot of moisture. Section 3, subsection 2 and 3. Subsection 2 covers walls, external and internal walls, moisture from the ground, external walls, moisture from outside. Also cladding, including slating and tiling for external walls and roofs. Okay, so worksheet question number 3 again, but for this section of the technical guidance documents, part C. So just have a go there at giving a brief description and a scope of part C of the technical guidance documents, site preparation and resistance to moisture. Part D, materials and workmanship. Section 1 covers materials, so we're looking at things like fitness of materials, resistance to moisture, resistance to subsoil, high aluminum cement, glazing safety mostly, and then letter plates. This was introduced a number of years ago there about the fact that letter plates or letter boxes in your front door have to be at a certain height. This is because a lot of postmen were complaining about the height of the letter boxes. Section 2 covers workmanship, and it really just covers adequacy of workmanship, but it's quite vague really. Okay, so worksheet question number 3 again, give a brief description of the scope of part D of the technical guidance documents. So this is materials and workmanship. Part E, sound. Section 1 covers general information such as sound, airborne and impact, walls and floors, direct transmission of sound, and flanking transmission of sound. Section 2 covers walls, types of wall, mass of masonry walls, refuge chutes, and timber frame separating walls or studded walls. Section 3 covers floors. This includes types of floor, mass of concrete floors. Section 4, similar construction. We're talking about performance of the existing construction, similar features, allowable differences, and limits on the use of test evidence. So worksheet question number 3, give a brief description of the scope of part E of the technical guidance documents. Part E, sound. Part F, ventilation. Section 1, subsection 1, means of ventilation. Section 2, subsection 2, dwellings. This includes general health and safety in the home, natural ventilation, mechanical ventilation with heat recovery also. And subsection 3 there, buildings other than dwellings, general designing systems, ventilation of offices and ventilation of car parks as well. Section 2 then of part F covers condensation in roofs. Some general information. Roofs with a pitch of 15 degrees or more, and roofs with a pitch of less than 15 degrees. So worksheet question number 3, give a brief description of the scope of part F of the technical guidance documents. Ventilation. Part G is hygiene. Section 1 covers bathrooms and kitchens in dwellings. Section 2 covers sanitary conveniences and washing facilities. Number, type and sitting of appliances, design and installation. So worksheet question number 3, give a brief description of the scope of part G of the technical guidance documents. Hygiene. Part H is drainage and wastewater disposal. Section 1 covers drainage systems, general foul and surface water, foul wastewater drainage, pipework overground, foul wastewater drainage, pipework underground, additional guidance for large buildings, surface water drainage, external grey water and rainwater storage tanks. This is only for in houses, not for commercial or industrial. Further guidance on drainage systems then are at the end of section 1. Section 2 is wastewater treatment systems. Worksheet question 3. Give a brief description of the scope of Part H of the technical guidance documents. Drainage and wastewater disposal. Part J, heat producing appliances. Section 1, general information there about air supply, extract fans and flue pipes. Section 2, additional provision for solid fuel burning appliances with a rated output of up to 45 kilowatts. Section 3 covers additional provisions for individual fueled non-fan assisted gas burning appliances with a rated input of up to 60 kilowatts. That should be output of 60 kilowatts. So section 2 covers solid fuel burning appliances. Section 3 covers gas burning. Section 4 covers additional provision for oil burning appliances with a rated output of up to 45 kilowatts. And section 5 covers oil storage tanks. So worksheet question number 3. Give a brief description of the scope of Part J of the technical guidance documents, heat producing appliances. Part K, stairways, ladders, ramps and guards. Section 1 covers stairways, ladders and ramps, and Section 2 pedestrian and vehicle barriers. Section 1 has a couple of subsections, subsection 1 and 2. Subsection 1 is stairways and ladders. This includes will include calculations and measurements for rise, going and pitch, construction of steps, headroom, widths of stairs, lengths of flights, landings, loft conversions, fixed ladders, handrails and guarding. And subsection 2 covers ramps. Okay, so worksheet question number 3. Give a brief description of the scope of Part K of the technical guidance documents. That's stairways, ladders, ramps and guards. Part L, conservation of fuel and energy in dwellings. We have a section 0 in this because, like I said earlier on, different people have put these different parts of these documents together. So section 0 is just a general guidance. Section 1 is new dwellings, and section 2 is existing dwellings. So section 0, general guidance. 1, application of the regulations, general, new dwellings and existing dwellings. Section 2 there, technical risks and precautions. We have general information, fire safety and ventilation. Then section 3 there, we have thermal conductivity and thermal transmittance. 4 is dimensions, 5 is definitions, and 6 is application to buildings of architectural or historical interest. Now you'll see, notice through all these here that, like I said, even like with Part B of the technical guidance documents, it was listed as B1, B2, B3, and then you'll see some inconsistencies here with section 0, subsections, and some sections have numbers, like these have sub numbers here, some just have points, but that's the way they're laid out in the technical guidance documents themselves. Section 1, new dwellings. This covers limitation of primary energy use and CO2 emissions, renewable energy technologies, building fabric, building services, construction quality and commissioning of services, and user information as well. Section 2 covers existing dwellings, and we have building fabric and building services. Then we have the other document here, the other part, which is conservation of fuel and energy, buildings other than dwellings, and a lot of this information is quite similar to what's in the previous document. We have a section 0, general guidance, section 1, buildings other than dwellings. So section 0, general, we have application of the regulations, technical risks and precautions, general, fire safety, ventilation, thermal conductivity and thermal transmittance, dimensions, definitions, application to buildings of architectural or historical interest. So it's nearly identical to the previous one on dwellings. Section 1, buildings other than dwellings. We have limitations of primary energy use and CO2 emissions for new buildings. Heat loss and gain through the building fabric. Heat loss general, overall heat loss method, elemental heat loss method, thermal bridging, air infiltration, avoiding solar overheating for larger buildings that with a lot of glazing in them. Building services, heating plant efficiency, controls for space heating and hot water supply systems, air conditioning and mechanical ventilation, ACMV, insulation of storage vessels, pipes and ducts, and also artificial lighting. Okay, so worksheet question 3, give a brief description of the scope of part L of the technical guidance documents, conservation of fuel and energy in dwellings and non-dwellings. And this part L, you should really go in and download the full PDF and have a good look in at the 2011 version for part L, because this is obviously the most important section of the technical guidance documents for this course. Part M, access and use. Section 1 is access and use of buildings other than dwellings. So we have section 1.1, approach to buildings other than dwellings. Section 1.2, access to buildings other than dwellings. Section 1.3, circulation within buildings other than dwellings. Section 1.4, sanitary facilities for buildings other than dwellings. And section 1.5, other facilities in buildings other than dwellings. And the last one there, section 1.6, aids to communication. Section 2 covers access and use of existing dwellings other than dwellings, and again this is quite similar to, if not identical to the previous one. We have approach to existing buildings other than dwellings, access to existing buildings other than dwellings, circulation within the existing buildings other than dwellings, sanitary facilities for existing buildings other than dwellings, other facilities in existing buildings other than dwellings, and aids to communication again. Section 3 covers access and use of dwellings. Section 3.1, approach to dwellings. Section 3.2, access to dwellings. Section 3.3, circulation within dwellings. And section 3.4, sanitary facilities for dwellings. Section 3.5, switches and sockets in dwellings. That's the bit that's a little bit different than the previous ones. And if you go on to the governmental website there to look at the technical guidance documents, there is an actual flow chart for part M, because they expanded so much on part M there a few years ago because of a lot of campaigning that was happening, that part M at one stage was nearly the biggest section of the technical guidance document. So it was so big it created a flow chart so you can see how it worked. Okay, so worksheet question 3, give a brief description of the scope of part M of the technical guidance documents, access and use. So in summary, in this lesson we covered the function of the technical guidance documents, which is to give guidance on how to construct a building so that it complies with the building regulations, so they're a guidance. We listed all 12 technical guidance documents: Part A, structure; Part B, fire safety; Part C, site preparation and resistance to moisture; Part D, materials and workmanship; Part E, sound; Part F, ventilation; Part G, hygiene; Part H, drainage and wastewater disposal; Part J, heat producing appliances; Part K, stairways, ladders, ramps and guards; Part L, conservation of fuel and energy, non-dwellings and dwellings. This part L is obviously the most important, and the whole document probably needs to be downloaded and viewed and read. Part M then, the last one, access and use. We also had a look at the scope of each of the technical guidance documents from A to M. So here's a quick summary. Part A, structure, covered loading and ground movement, and areas such as properties of materials, design analysis, details of construction, safety factors and workmanship, and also disproportionate collapse loading for larger buildings. Part B, fire safety, covered B1, means of escape in case of a fire. B2, internal fire spread on linings. B3, internal fire spread on the structure. B4, external fire spread. And B5, access and facilities for the fire services. Part C then, site preparation and resistance to moisture, covered site preparation and site drainage. Dangerous substances such as radon, resistance to weather and ground moisture. Part D, materials and workmanship, covered fitness of materials, resistance to moisture, resistance to subsoil, high aluminum cement, glazing safety, and let's not forget leather plates or leather boxes for the poor postmen. Part E, sound. This covered general walls, floors, similar construction, walls, floors, and then other types of materials that are used for similar construction. Sound, airborne and impact, walls and floors, direct transmission of sound and flanking transmission of sound. Part F, ventilation, covered means of ventilation, dwellings and buildings other than dwellings. We had headings like natural ventilation, mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, and also condensation in roofs. Part G, hygiene, covered bathrooms and kitchens in dwellings, sanitary conveniences and washing facilities. Part H, drainage and wastewater disposal, covered drainage systems, general foul and surface waters, external grey water and rainwater storage tanks, and also wastewater treatment systems. Part J, heat producing appliances, covered some general information about air supply, extract fans, flue pipes, solid fuel burning appliances, gas burning appliances, oil burning appliances, and also oil storage tanks. Part K, stairways, ladders, ramps and guards. These covered stairways, ladders and ramps, pedestrians and vehicle barriers. Again, the most important section, Part L, conservation of fuel and energy, non-dwellings and dwellings. We had a lot of similar headings in these two documents, the two Part L documents for dwellings and non-dwellings, and they included thermal conductivity and transmittance, buildings of architectural or historical interest, limitation of primary energy use and CO2 emissions for new buildings, heat loss and gain through the building fabric, thermal bridging, air infiltration, avoiding solar overheating, controls for space heating and hot water supply systems, air conditioning and mechanical ventilation, ACMV, insulation of storage vessels, pipes and ducts, artificial lighting, renewable energy technologies, building services, and construction quality and commissioning of these services. The scope of each part of the technical guidance documents also covered Part M, which is the last one, which is access and use, and this included buildings other than dwellings, new and existing dwellings, approach to dwellings, access to the dwellings, circulation within dwellings, and sanitary facilities for dwellings, and also switches and sockets in dwellings.